Melissa Bontemps is the first down. Roger Lockhart, nice to see you back. 5 others with all of you watching in the pre-show. Chris Gillingham saying, as usual, evening from Leamington here as we're getting ready to go in Studio B. No scarf on Julia today, but her lavender, is that lavender or purple, Julia?
Magenta.
Magenta dress is matching the Mac OS on the computer here. Looks pretty nice. We'll excuse the no scarf today because you have such fancy America's Cup jewelry on.
I do have to honor the America's Cup today.
Big America's Cup show. Pedro Foiling Sailor. Sydney weather is 14 to 27. Off kayaking now. We'll watch and replay. Bye, Peter. Warren Chaucer in Brisbane. Jeff Ogle, TGIF. Thank God it's Friday in Annapolis and the rest of the world except for Down Under. Speaking of Down Under, let's go to the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron and get this one on the road. Yarvahe is saying good evening from the shores of Portsmouth Harbor in the UK. How are you? Jonathan Frank down in Galveston. And already a bunch of folks on here for what we said would be a lot of America's Cup news. Because now, as we told you on Monday, or started telling you before last, the America's Cup decision I was hearing was going to get postponed. That is the venue decision. And indeed it has been. So we'll get into that. And just before we went to air, we have not only audio from Grant Dalton, Julia. He gave an interview this morning, Friday morning, but it's Saturday down under now.
Right.
And this guy, Dunphy, Mr. Dunphy, who has been championing a return of the venue to Auckland and a promise to raise some money, he's just given an interview, and we have that audio for you as well. Julia, I trust you're well otherwise?
Oh, I am,
No
interestingly enough. No, not really. Not today.
Well, co-hostess, Julia Wedekind, Commodore here at the Beach Street Yacht Club, where once again we're live from Studio B. If you're watching in replay, thank you for joining us. If you're watching live, as many people are from across the world, Clark Chapin in Michigan, who has already liked, shared, and subscribed. Andrew Pindar.
He gets a medal for that.
Ooh, Clark Chapin
Yes.
does. He does indeed. He does indeed. Pindar is saying it's always sunny in Scarborough. I've never heard him say anything other. He's, I think, also the surrogate chairman of the Chamber of Commerce in Scarborough in the UK. The spiritual home of yachting, he says.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan Frank's down in Galveston in Texas. Well, they got some problems down there on the border. Should send Jonathan Frank and the FOSI down there to fix that. Carlos Aviz, greetings from Brasilia. We celebrated Carlos's birthday not too long ago. Brasilia, of course, that, what is it, about a 40, 60-year-old city now, made from scratch.
Yes.
Is the capital of Brazil. I've not been. I've been to...
I have.
Have you been to Brasilia?
Uh-huh.
I've been to Rio and to Sao Paulo for the Formula One, but I have not been to Brasilia. Well, we may have to take a trip down there. Rick Hayes is in Chicago. Jeff Waller is still locked down in Sydney. Can't sleep. Might as well talk AC. So he's up early. It's 8 in the morning in Auckland, so 06:03 now in Sydney. Welcome to you, Jeff Waller, Jeff Ogle. Patchy feed. Uh-oh. Well, check your internet connection because I'm showing everything nominal here and a bloody good feed. I hope John Lammert's Van Buren in the Netherlands says the same. Ted Ryman down in Cape Town. What? No scarf. Clark Chapin's the first one to say, Julia.
I sacrificed the scarf for the America's Cup today.
The necklace.
Yeah.
We got to work a way out to get the scarf and necklace both working.
Well, it's possible.
Well, let's get into it because there is purple, the color of emperors. Magenta.
Magenta.
Magenta. Okay, I'll put the 3 tog up here. And well, my pen's a little crooked, Julia, but then maybe the cup is a little crooked. Not crooked in the criminal sense, but crooked in the croutonic sense. No, I think it's good news. I think there's good news coming out of Auckland now. All around, we'll get into it. Warren Chaucer, who's down in Brisbane, is with us as well. Welcome to you and everyone else who's joined us for this show number 454. It's Friday here. It's Saturday down under, Friday, September the 17th. Also an historical day, this Super September. And, of course, the Cup was competed for in September back in Newport, Rhode Island, from 1930 until we lost it in '83. So there were a lot of cup racing. There was a lot of cup racing and wins, one loss in this month of September. Julia, you're a witness.
Yes. Today is a special day to remember to like, follow, and share. There'll be lots of news.
I hope. Clark Chapin saying it's cockeyed, not crooked. Well, I don't even know that it's even cockeyed. Mark Husted in Göteborg, Sweden, not joining tonight. I have an important date with my wife. Catch it in replay. Anyone can share the show on my FB. Okay, we'll do that. Maybe not right now at the moment, but we'll do it in due course. Comments are welcome, whether you're live with us or watching in replay as usual. And we're gonna replay some comments from a Facebook post I did on Monday about this delay, this postponement of the Cup venue decision. Support us on Patreon. If you would, please become a patron, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. As many of you do, give us a few bucks per month to keep the lights on. Julia, I could change the lighting behind me to match your magenta, or we could change the lighting behind you, which is, I think that light behind you is blue, light blue. We'll carry on here. Technical details we don't need to do, right? The starting line, our first segment here in the A block of today's show, as always, the starting line. And we told you it was happening. No one believed me. I got abused.
Yes, indeed you did.
In various social media about, what's he even know? He doesn't know about there being a postponement. He's predicting a postponement. When I put that up on my Facebook page on Monday, people laughed. People said, no, there's going to be a big announcement on Friday. And of course, there were as many, people split between whether it was going to the various actually four venues. But of course, this all came to fruition yesterday, which was the Friday in New Zealand, so Saturday, of course, when a postponement to that venue decision was indeed announced. We'll get into that in detail here in the America's Cup segment in a few minutes. Surprised? Not me. Sorry. Okay, I'm done patting myself on the back, Julia.
Good.
One hears, one no longer hears. Biden administration appeals court. I know there's something going on with booster shots, but we just want, in the starting line here, we've got a couple nice videos from events we've been covering. This from the Rolex Maxi Cup in Porto Cervo, Yacht Club Costa Smeralda. A really nice 2-minute video to get us in the mood.
Rolex Cup concluded today in Porto Cervo, Sardinia, having produced exhilarating yacht racing of the very highest caliber.
That's what.
An impressive 44-strong fleet divided into 5 classes put on a dazzling display of prowess and performance, providing the colour and spectacle for which the event is so universally admired. And there were winners. Velshida in the Super Maxi class, after a regatta-long duel with Topaz, provided some of the closest J-class racing in recent years. Magic Carpet Cubed in the Maxi class, posting top 3 finishes all week. Dario Ferrari's Cannonball in the Mini Maxi 1 class. And finally Capricorno and Lyra in Mini Maxi classes 2 and 3. And with success come the rewards.
There's Andrew. Andrew McIrvin, our FOSI.
But perhaps the greatest winner was the Maxi Yacht Rolex Cup itself. The determination of the organisers, the Yacht Club Costa Smeralda and the International Maxi Association, to pull off this event in such style. The unwavering passion of the owners who attended in such great numbers, and the professional commitment of the world's best sailors who ensured that the racing on the water produced a spirit-lifting regatta that will live long in the memory.
Yeah, I know my mic is hot. Mark Michelson, who is just sending me a note, and we never know whether to just leave the mics hot the whole show and then talk over some of the videos, because Julie started to say
that's what yacht racing is all about.
It should be. Yeah, it's just fantastic.
It's so beautiful.
Footage. And I was saying that our FOSI and dear friend Andrew McIrvin, who is the Secretary General of the IMA, the International Maxi Association, was on there as we leave a bit of an ad up here for Rolex. Now, also, we're starting to get texts and notices that apropos Andrew McIrvin, our guru on COVID and so on, we've just gotten notice here that the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration in this country, have recommended against boosters shots at this time because they haven't done enough testing and they're concerned about myocarditis and among at least younger males and so on. So, Julie, it sounds like we're not going to get a booster anytime soon.
That's fine with me.
It is?
Yes.
You got your flu shot this week, though, right?
I did, but there's been a number of things which said you don't want to get it too early, the booster shot. So I'm not in any hurry.
I also saw a note today that said your Moderna vaccine is more efficacious, to use a good political science 101 term.
We've known that for a while.
It's more efficacious than my Pfizer vaccine. Those of us that were a little younger and got Pfizered after you got Moderna'd in January. But anyway, we'll get Andrew back on here, McIrvin, and tell us. Now, this video that I'm about to play, you saw me tease it a moment ago. This is World Sailing. You know how the World Sailing does these no voiceover, just a little bit of music with various events with which they are, as the world governing body, affiliated. This is now finally a recap video from Sardinia, from France, from the Sail GP race last weekend, and a nice video by World Sailing recapping. Have a look. There's Nathan's team, Nathan Otteridge's Japan team. They're now at the top of the leaderboard, as we told you on the show on Tuesday, after winning that event in Saint-Tropez in France. And we will watch next month when they are, I think, in Spain, aren't they? I can't remember now. I think that's the next event. While we're here, David James spent part of our honeymoon in that hotel. I guess he means the hotel in what hotel? Sheraton in Rio, near LeBlanc. Truly a beautiful part of the world. Yeah, especially if you get down to Ipanema Beach and see the girl, Julia, from Ipanema.
Yes, but
or the boy from Ipanema.
Oh, yes. Yes.
One could do that.
I've stayed on that beach, but it's sometimes suspect.
Yeah, it is these days. It's a little rough and ready, but I've spent actually more time in Rio, in Sao Paulo, one of the largest cities in this hemisphere.
And I've never been to Sao Paulo.
Well, Sao Paulo, we had Formula One there at Interlagos, Intermountain Lakes.
Yeah.
And I told the story. I won't repeat it, but it's a nice town once you're out at the circuit, or once you're back in town at one of the big hotels, staying and drinking caipirinhas.
Oh, yes.
Jody Shields says, "G'day from the prison down under." He, of course, is in Wangi, up north of Sydney, a couple hours. Had a great 2-hour wing session. Jody being quite the wing foiler. He had a 2-hour wing session yesterday, plenty of frothing. David James asking, which is faster upwind, a J class, a traditional J class, or a modern maxi like Rambler? Well, Rambler is for sure, David. I would venture that without too much. Anybody else have an opinion? Jonathan Frank spent many days and nights at the Sheraton in Rio we were repeating. Clark Chapin, I am HO. My humble opinion, mini maxi is an oxymoron like jumbo. Okay. So Yarvahe Julia is making this point. The boosters have started in the UK, and I also saw a news report before we went to air this morning that they are in the UK starting next week. The NHS, the National Health Service, is going to start. They've got a cocktail of antiviral drugs not unlike, it's totally different, but not unlike the cocktail they use for HIV treatment, and as a preventative, as well as maybe a therapeutic. And they're going to start dishing that out. Dishing is probably the wrong word, but doing that in the UK next week, the NHS.
Oh, that's interesting.
So that I thought that was interesting. I mean, we're all still affected by this bloody thing. We're kind of afraid to go out again because of breakthrough COVID and wondering what the deal is.
Yeah.
But you got to live your life. You got to get out. Mary Longpree is watching from her beautiful home in Sedona, Arizona. Good to be seeing great sailboat racing. Yes, this is Super September. And Bill Wingrove says we're cutting into his Con Cup coverage. Well, we're not going to say too much about Con Cup. We're just going to cover the America's Cup. Yarvaje is saying Cadiz is next. Cadiz in Spain. Jody Shields and you. Okay, so that's the next SailGP event in a month's time. Let's carry on here with the. Was there a comment, Julia?
No.
Okay, so we'll carry on here with the America's Cup. This is a bit of a long segment because of literally breaking news before we went to air. I got a kind note from Stingray with this interview on News Talk ZB from this morning of Mark Dunphy, the gentleman who's promised to raise money and help keep the Cup in Auckland if he and Grant Dalton can see eye to eye. Again, the AP flag went up yesterday, there Friday in New Zealand, and the AC-37 venue decision has been postponed. And now there's a lot of this and that, but I take this as good news all around because I think it strengthens the Cup in Auckland. I think Grant Dalton actually has been very clever by putting it out, getting other venues, potential venues, to at least appear to be bidding or, showing interest. And now it looks like the people in New Zealand, the government and private business and so on are rallying around the cause, which is, I again think, is great news. And let's see how this all plays out, as the venue decision has been postponed, was to be announced on the 17th or before, which is today here, but it's the 18th down in New Zealand. You all will know that Valencia was one of the final three, not including Auckland. Valencia, quote, from their release, which we read to you on the show Tuesday, we got just before the show, could not align mutual interests, quote unquote. And I've heard quite a bit more about that. But anybody that thinks Valencia is still in the game had better think again. Likewise, anybody who thinks this other Spanish bid for Barcelona or beyond is anything other than ephemeral, it's a ghost. It's not going to happen. So you can just forget about Spain. Now, I'm accused of using three-letter codes too much, but just in the interest of keeping everybody informed, we use VLC on my Facebook page and otherwise because that's the airport code, the IATA code for Valencia, and of course ESP, the Olympic code, as I'm sure most of you know, for Spain. Now, go ahead, Julia.
Yeah, there are three quick points here. David James says J class is 87 feet on the water line, and Bill Wingrove says make that 90 feet because they have to be for the America's Cup. And David Pritchard said the Cup is going to Cork.
David, he must have some information we don't have, but we'll see. Let's speaking of Cork, let's look at this nice shot of that. Julia's Cork. The approach is to Cork, obviously in Ireland, and their statement, which came out a couple days ago, said more cost benefit analysis is needed. But that thing, with all due respects, and I hope Cork is still in the mix, but David Pritchard says the Cup is going to Cork. You must know something we don't know, David, because I think this Cork bid is also now the ROI, the return on investment, and the political will to make it happen now, I think, is rather diminished. But you tell me. So I think Valencia and Cork. Now, you know what the airport code is for Cork?
No.
Mork and Mindy? It's ORC. It's
ORC.
It's on your screen. The answers are always on the screen.
Oh, yes, ORC.
O-R-K. I did not know that. Beautiful town.
Cork was the first town I touched in England. In Europe.
In what? What year?
60.
1860?
Yes, 1860. on a
Was it a flight over?
No,
On a
steerage,
boat.
steerage in a
cruise ship.
in a cruise ship.
There's
$120 round trip.
Wow. 1960. Well, you know, we used to, when you fly private, not that I do that very often, but in the times I have flown private to Europe, in fact, to Sardinia, Yacht Club Costa Smeralda, we once or twice went that way, and you leaving from New York or from the Northeast, you stop in Ireland and refuel. But that's another issue. Cork, I hope we'll see. The Jody Shields, if the cup keeps shopping itself about it, will need a cork to stop it sinking. So they will pop the cork in court, Jonathan Frank is saying. Okay, the clever people, it is Friday after all. We're going to have some fun. But cork. Now this, of course, is the other European bidder, and this in the Middle East, of course, is Jeddah. And KSA, for those of you who don't know, is not the airport code, that is the Olympic code for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Oh, yes.
KSA. You don't often see that on sails because they're not a big sailing nation. They do have some sailing, but not a big sailing nation. And what is their airport code in Jeddah?
Jed.
Like the Beverly Hillbillies.
Yes.
Jed Clampett, who was a sailor. What was his name? That was the actor's name?
Yeah.
Newport Beach. He had a big Polynesian Concept, I think was the name of the cat. Somebody, Mary Longpree will know.
Yeah, I will. I think about it too.
Jed Clampett on the Beverly Hillbillies was played by the actor. Someone help us out. Buddy. Thanks, Jonathan Frank. Buddy. Ebsen.
Yeah.
Thanks, Clark. Once I saw Buddy. Buddy Ebsen, and he was a sailor. In fact, we sailed at Collegiate Nationals in Newport Beach, and he had us all over to his home and took us out for a ride on that. Those who wanted to go, we were mostly all sailed out. Anyway, back to Jeddah and the America's Cup. This thing, there has been no media, no mention, no discussion, and all we've heard out of that venue is the proverbial crickets. I couldn't help myself again using our sound effects here on the studio. Rodecaster Pro audio processor mixer. Now, Auckland. I still think it's going to be in Auckland. I have thought for a long time it was going to be in Auckland. I think it should be in Auckland. Not all of you agree, and of course that's in New Zealand, and ZL, the country code, and the airport code, which we use all the time, is AKL for that beautiful town in the land of the long white cloud. This is a Carlo Berlanghi photo during the last Cup when they had the Auckland Sky Tower lit up in the Italian colors. And they won the Challenger Selection Series to move forward to the match. Nice photo. One of my favorites. Now, this was the post on the America's Cup website early on the 17th. That is Friday down under, our yesterday. 37th America's Cup host venue update. Timeline for decision is extended. And I won't read the entire PR press release, but you gotta shake your head at some of this. Following a very close 37th America's Cup host venue selection process consisting of 3 compelling and professional international proposals, the RNZ, and if anyone doesn't like me saying Zed, you know, I lived in New Zealand and in Australia and in Europe where we all said Zed, not Z. So it's not an affectation, croutons who accusing me of that. RNZ and E, we're just being polite to those countries, most of which use Z instead of Z. Together with ETNZ, announced today that they are extending the selection period for the shortlisted offshore venues to continue to work through the final details and provide further information required for their respective bids. Okay, very diplomatic opening paragraph. RNZ, Commodore Aaron Young said, quote, for the benefit of both the 37th America's Cup and the eventual host venue, we would rather allow some more time now so we make the right decision as opposed to a rushed decision. Another diplomatic.
I think that was fine.
It was from the Commodore. ETNZ and RNZ via the squadron believe it is both prudent and responsible to extend the deadline in which the offshore venues can continue to progress negotiations. This is a repeat. After COVID lockdown in New Zealand has made it impossible, that's not quite true, impossible for ETNZ team members to visit the venues. They could leave, but they couldn't get back. Kind of like Hotel California, the opposite of Hotel California. You can check in, but you can't ever leave.
Yes.
Wasn't that how that song went? It was originally planned to carry out essential face-to-face meetings and to provide final team feedback to act on Origin Sports Group's recommendation. Now, who's Origin Sports Groups? That is Sir Keith Mills in the UK, who's been in and out of the America's Cup, not successfully, but has helped organize teams in his Origin, and he was also the chair of the bid committee for the 2012 Olympics, although he didn't run the Olympics ultimately, but he did win the bid. And Sir Keith Mills, who's a yachty, member of the Royal Yacht Squadron, and he's obviously been knighted. His Origin Sports Group was contracted by ETNZ and the squadron, the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, to shop the venue, do these venue bids. So they're saying here that they need time to act on feedback, to act on Origin Sports Group's recommendations. Well, okay. ETNZ and RNZ have had to balance the need for further time to ensure they accept a bid that is in the best interest of the America's Cup event, with the need for the challengers to know the final venue as soon as practicable, which is true. I mean, everybody wants. They can't design their boats. They can't do anything until they know the weather and the dates, time of year, even if they know it's 2024, which they're still not sure of. Furthermore, this release goes on to say, on Wednesday morning, ETNZ and RNZ received a letter from Mark Dunphy regarding the viability of his funding to maintain the event in Auckland. This extension of the process will also allow Mr. Dunphy further time to answer the questions we have already put to him over the past month. And then Grant Dalton, quote, the fundamental fact is that we have a number of outstanding potential venues literally going down to the wire, and all of them with strong and competitive bids on the table and firmly committed to completing agreements in the coming weeks. That's simply not true. That's a good place to be in for sure. It's frustrating not to have been able to close our agreement with a host venue by the planned date of 17 September as previously announced. But we are now giving ourselves more time to work through the final details of the respective venues, as the current COVID situation in New Zealand has made this process more difficult, which no doubt is true. Now, Mr. Daltz, as he's fondly known, appeared with Mike Hosking on the new ZB breakfast or morning show, whatever it's called, yesterday morning. It's their Friday morning. And Mr. Dunphy appeared on that same show this morning, their Saturday morning. First, I'm going to play this. It's a bit long, but I want you to hear it all because it's very insightful, S-I-G-H-T, insightful. Grant Dalton with Mike Hosking Friday morning.
So where are we at with the America's Cup? There's been a delay on the decision, which is the announcement made as of 8 o'clock this morning. So what does all that mean? Team New Zealand boss Grant Dalton back with us. Morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
So the delay is based on the fact that you set your own deadline. So is this a problem, or you will make up your mind in your own time?
Yeah, I mean, we'd certainly like to have it all done by now. I mean, COVID, which we're not using as any excuse, but we need to get boots on the ground. And with the lottery opening up next Monday for MIQ to get back, hopefully we can get some people out to these three venues to get not to get a look, because we've had people there from our sports organisation, but we want to get there ourselves and have a look and eyeball and do some negotiation face to face.
So it's Ireland, Spain, Saudi Arabia, right?
So we've never really, I mean, Ireland's pretty well known. We've never really spoken about the venues themselves. It's up to the venues to speak, on whether they want to be named or not. But Ireland's the one that everybody knows.
But so, in fact, one of the stories I read yesterday, Ireland was out. That's not true?
No, I mean, they put a time frame on their due diligence, which is too long for us at this stage. And we've said no to that. We've given them a tighter time frame than that. And so let's just see where that goes.
So that's still a live bid, though, as far as you're concerned?
The Ireland's still a live bid, yes.
Okay. This guy, Dunphy, do you know him?
Well, no. I've never met him. I've had one phone conversation, I guess that's getting on to 2 months ago now, and we had a letter from him, which was hardly a proposal as such, and not really, no. I mean, I don't think any of the team have met him, actually.
So would you call that a live bid or not really?
Well, I think you've got to go back a step. and say, I mean, Auckland will always be in the mix. I mean, to even really us to be asked whether it is sort of an unusual question, but I mean, those that can't remember the past are condemned to repeat it, because this is about winning. It's not about setting ourselves up to lose. And 2003, when Team New Zealand whimpered and lost badly, not just in front of New Zealand, but in front of the world. I mean, we lost a lot those days, and we're just not going to set ourselves up that way. So in an underfunded environment, I mean, the opposition just sitting out there at the moment licking their chops, we would most likely lose. And the team is just not built that way. So it's not about the venue so much. It's about winning the America's Cup.
Can we say that the New Zealand government side of the equation, forget Dunphy for a moment, but is the New Zealand government side of the equation, is that gone? That's dead?
Well, the bid, the proposition they put up is off the table, and we haven't renegotiated or entered any new conversations with them. But just to say also that given the unbelievable times that we're living in, I thought and believe that the New Zealand government bid is totally reasonable. So in no shape or form has there been any criticism or our hands out or anything like that for the New Zealand government, because there's way bigger priorities than the America's Cup for the government at the moment.
Sorry, back to Dunphy. So you don't know him. What's his problem with you? So his bids was still, as far as I know, around the fact that you need to go. What's that about?
Yeah, look, I've no idea. I mean, I think the team came out pretty strongly. I had no idea they were going to do that. I was quite, I was humbled. But honestly, I have no idea. That's more probably a question for him, I think, but he doesn't seem to be able to. Well, he's fairly heavy in his PR, but as I say, we don't have a proposal. I mean, we send a bunch of questions, pretty obvious questions, like what's the structure, what do you want, how much money, etc. Back in August, we don't have answers to those. Now, we would keep the cup in Auckland, but as I say, I mean, this is about trying to win it, not to set ourselves up to lose.
When do you reckon we'll know for sure who the winner is?
Well, I think the simple answer is as soon as possible. But along with the squadron, one thing to remember that we almost have to remind ourselves in the team as well is we have the America's Cup. We are in control of the agenda. We're in control of the time frames, and we'll make with the squadron that decision when it's the right decision for the Cup and for the team.
As you sit here this morning with, let's call it 3 sensible bids, would any one of them, assuming you can sign the dotted line and sort it all out, will one of them be an excellent bid, a good place to sail, and it will be a good regatta?
I think if you go back to how it all started and the number of bids we had, and we whittled them down, then we had a 3-month exclusive period here straight after the Cup, and we only really re-engaged in this 3 months ago with these bids. I think that where we've ended up with the 3, they're all very good. I mean, we start sort of backwards. What's the good sailing venue? Because that's ultimately what this is. It's a regatta. What's the legacy that can be left behind in those places? And how's the infrastructure? And all of these 3 meet that criteria. And they're different in that respect. I mean, Ireland, the one that people know, that has its own. People think of it sort of as the oldest yacht club in the world, etc. But it's more a technology type bid, because the area of Cork has a lot of major tech companies as offices there.
Interesting stuff. All right, we'll stay in touch. Appreciate it very much. Go well. Grant Dalton, Team New Zealand boss, with us this morning.
Okay, so some of you saying Jonathan Frank not too impressed. Gordon Smith asking, could this process take so long that RYS, the Royal Yacht Squadron, the Challenger of Record, insist on a deed of gift match? They could, I guess. I mean, they're the only challenger. Apparently, we know New York is a challenger, has filed a challenge, but after the initial challenge of the Royal Yacht Squadron, we don't know if any other clubs. It's been rumored that SNG, Société Nautique Genève of Geneva, has also filed a challenge, but again, I don't know that. Steve Gruber saying how to speak for a long time and say nothing. Well, I thought there were some interesting comments, and he did make the comment that this is a regatta after all, which I find refreshing. And he made the other comment that is, everyone should remember, Julia, and you and I and everyone else on here, they are in charge. They are in control. They're the defender, and they can negotiate a date with the challenger of record. They get to choose the venue. So they,
Yep.
Do I think that they're rewriting the class rule and trying to get a leg up on everybody else at this point? No, I don't think so. Now, will they have a leg up? Yes, because they'll know the venue and they'll do the weather studies and they'll know the class rule changes before anybody else. But they keep insisting, excuse me, that it will be a multiple challenger event, not a one-on-one event, not a need of gift match. So I doubt that very much. They need to have teams, especially if it's back in Auckland. Now, are there any other questions or comments on what Dalt's just said? Jeff Waller, what legacy will he leave in Jeddah? Well, here's the other interesting thing I am hearing from people, and there's one of you just made a comment. I don't know if you want me to mention that you worked at some length in Jeddah and know a lot about it, one of you here on here. And if you do, go ahead and post the comment or go ahead and say, yes, please do, or just go ahead and say it for yourself. The Saudis, I think, are just now figuring out that the America's Cup isn't a week-long tennis event or a week-long golf event where people fly in, stay in the hotel, go to the golf course or go to the tennis center, and then go back to the hotel. They're figuring out that America's Cup teams, or Formula One, which is just a long weekend.
Yeah.
And I think they're starting to figure out the teams are going to actually move there for more than a year, maybe 2 years, and acclimatize and train and so on. Well, excuse me, we're going to have non-Saudis living amongst us here, and I think the Saudis are not too keen.
Yeah.
I don't think. Now, let's move on to this next piece of news. This is we've had other pictures of them. This may be people are struggling to find a recent picture of him, but this is this gentleman, Mark Dunphy, who has been leading the charge to keep the cup in Auckland, saying he will raise whatever shortfall there is from the government's spend between infrastructure and running the event. They've got the infrastructure, so it should not have to be that much money for AC 37. But of course, the team is looking to be financed. Dalt's is looking for money from the venue to help the team and maybe for the team to pay off some previous debts and do some other things where they need cold hard cash like quico pronto. Now, thanks to Stingray, who sent literally before we went to air, there's an interview with Mr. Dunphy, also on News Talk ZB. You can listen on iHeartRadio or go right to the News Talk ZB website. I'm going to play, it's not that long, I'm going to play it for you now, this interview with Mark Dunphy, and listen carefully. It is illuminating.
Anyway, so what is going on with the claims that a millionaire oilman wants to fund the America's Cup staying in the country in exchange for Grant Dalton stepping back? Mark Dunphy, and is he going to get anywhere with this? Mark Dunphy is the CEO of Greymouth Petroleum. With us now. Afternoon, Mark.
Hi, Heather. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Do you reckon there's a real chance for Auckland here?
Hell yes. No, we're definitely going to have it here.
Really? Why are you so confident?
It's just some of these things, when they're right, they're going to happen. And this one's got everything that... It's just lined up, isn't it? We've got, more than 85% of New Zealanders want to have it here. We've got all the infrastructure built. All the Kiwis want it. The team wants it. The defenders want it. The challengers want it. How can it not happen?
So he's talking to you now, Grant Dalton?
Yes, there are communications, and we're just so keen to get round the table with him.
Are you talking to him one-on-one, or are you going through intermediaries?
No intermediaries, but we are, I suppose, just in the sort of, a bit like having a dance before you get around a table.
I see, okay, yep. Who got in touch with who most recently?
We initiated this discussion by making a formal proposal last Tuesday. That hasn't been made public. I guess there's a prospect that will in due course, but we started, yep.
And so that has been different enough from what you've said before to prick his interest?
Well, there hasn't been anything before. We've been waiting I've not been involved for more than 2 months, but from the get-go, I asked that there be a commitment from the squadron and the team that were we able to come with the $80 million, which is the shortfall, that the Cup would be defended here, and we've really struggled, I must say, to get that commitment. But on Thursday of last week, Bob Field, chairman of Team New Zealand, sent us the letter that we'd been looking for, and so we're off to the races.
Right, so have you got the 80 million?
We're working on it. We haven't got it today. It's not like we can walk in and plump it down, but I have to say that the funding needs the government involved in as much as what we're talking about here is a shortfall, because you'll know from the background that the government and the Auckland Council had put a proposal on the table. Team New Zealand said that wasn't enough. The parties left the table, and we said, "Oh, this just can't be right. We have to have this Cup here." And when you think, Heather, about the history of it, we've been sailing for the America's Cup for about 35 years. We've invested one way or another $1.5 billion, government and private sector, and we've invested massively as people, as supporters, Red Sox, money jars, penny jars, team merch. We're all right behind it. We're all hugely invested in this.
So, of the 80 million, how much have you got?
How much is what sort of a check will we write out today?
Yeah.
First up, we're going to write out a check for the team to keep things going while we have the discussions. So the government on 17th of March, after we succeeded in retaining the Cup, offered $5 million, and we're going to match that. And we have a plan for the balance of it. And I'm not going to step through that with you today, but I'm happy to do it soon enough.
And would you require, from what I understand, taxpayers already have offered to put about $30 million cash in, and then the rest is in kind. Would you expect taxpayers to put in more than that?
I think that we all need to get around the table and talk about where the extra money is coming from. But I think the logical split would be half from from private donors and half from the public sector.
Are you struggling to raise the money privately?
Look, I haven't actually been out too far yet. There are a number of discussions to be had, and people have indicated that they want to help, and but I haven't been prepared to go and have those discussions without knowing that if one says yes, then we can deliver. So. And that seems perfectly reasonable. This is not like buying shares or anything. These are people who are donating money, and it's a different space, really.
Is your understanding, Mark, that Cork is over?
I think Cork's done, and I could never understand Cork. The Olympics is in 2024. Starting in end of June through into early July. No, is it June? No, it actually starts mid-July and goes through to early August. How anyone could expect to hold a cup contest before it with the weather and everything down in that part of the world, or after it, just doesn't work. It's never worked.
And what about Saudi Arabia? That sounds like a bit airy-fairy as well, doesn't it?
I'm not sure that's airy-fairy, but it's troubling. I think that will involve a lot of time in the New York courts if that were to happen. Right. Not from New Zealand, but I think the Americans just would not put up with that.
And so, really, does that, to your mind, only leave Spain as a realistic alternative?
Spain's not there either, I don't think.
Really?
No.
Right. So Auckland it is. Okay, now here's the thing. Mark, you have in the past said that Grant Dalton has to be gone in order for this to be funded. Are you still of that view?
No, and I don't want to be misquoted on that. We're very supportive of this team. I think Team New Zealand's a wonderful team. We love the team, and look, we really love everyone who's been involved. They're incredibly successful, and why wouldn't we want to back them?
He's a pretty strong-willed character, and you might I imagine you might have got him a bit offside. Do you reckon you'll be able to paper over that? And from what I understand, you're a strong-willed character as well.
Heather, I imagine you're married to a strong-willed character.
I think he is. Are you going to be able to get on with Grant?
Yes, of course. I've met lots of people like Grant before, and some, in varying stages, but I think I know his type.
Thank you, Mark. I really Really appreciate your
Really
time.
nice.
Mark Dunphy, millionaire business.
It's all about the 80s.
Now, that was this gal on News Talk ZB, who's the Saturday morning host of the Drive Time show, the breakfast show. And her name's Heather Duplessis Allen. I don't know her. I don't remember having met her. But when he said, I imagine you're married to a strong-willed person. And Julia burst out laughing here in the studio. I think you're going to fall off your chair. We were going to have to do the seventh inning stretch today, Julia.
Of course she is.
But you know what? A lot of you are saying, hey, this doesn't sound all. And I actually, after Stingray, I literally was coming out of hair and makeup before we go to air. And Stingray sent this link to me. So thanks again, Stingray, for doing that. And I listened to it while I was combing my hair and shaving and so on. And I came away with the same impression. This guy doesn't sound all that, I don't know, Julie, what do you think? He doesn't sound all that solid. Now, he's not poor. He's worth, according to the New Zealand papers, 230 million Kiwi, which, you know, is not chump change, but he's also not a multi-billionaire.
I think what he is solid about is making sure that the cup stays in New Zealand.
I think that's a really good point. I think he is. He's
and if he has to do it by himself, he'd get it done by himself. But it'd be much rather if there were a team involved.
Well, but he's also backed away from saying it's me or Dalton, so he's not trying to, and that's smart because you can't look. As I have said to a couple of you on here, there are some people who are good at running teams and winning the cup. There are other people who are good at running events. There are not very many people who are good at both.
Bruce Hudson says Heather D is right-leaning and gets herself into hot water regularly. Not solid either.
Well, I thought that was a good interview, though. I thought she did a nice job of getting out of, and Mike Hosking did a nice job too. I mean, these New Zealand radio, you know, the talk radio is a big thing in New Zealand, as it is a lot of places. So okay, so you've now heard both sides of the stories, and you've now finally we haven't seen him on TV, but we've heard his voice, and we have a face picture here. Now let's talk about who else is with him, because there is some other power there. This is a photo not too long ago of Sir Michael Fay, who, of course, Fay Richwhite, the investment bankers, for whom this guy Dunphy used to work.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he worked for he worked for Sir Michael and ran their Perth operation, and then that was sold off to somebody, a Perth-based petroleum company. But of course, Michael Fay, as I'm sure most of you on here will know, was the power and money behind, it wasn't ETN's, that it was Team New Zealand's, the 1988 Cup Challenge, both the 87 Cup Challenge in Perth, but then the 88 Challenge, the Rogue Challenge, which some of us in San Diego were not that charitable about it, but this is the launch day of KZ1, the big boat that with which they challenged. It was it met the deed requirement of less than 90 feet on the LWL, load water line, but it was 100 and I don't know what, 30 feet overall, and it launched in New Zealand, then shipped up to San Diego, and then it got beaten pretty badly by Dennis and his catamaran in the 88 Cup in San Diego. And that was then, there was court action before that, there was court action after that, which ultimately, in fact, the first court hearing, the trial court in New York, awarded the cup to the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, or the Mercury Bay Boating Club, I guess it was, and to this team.
Wow.
And then we appealed, and then won both of the appellate division at the State Court of Appeals, the top court. And God forbid that ever happens again. You don't want the American, and you heard Mr. Dunphy referred to it. If the cup goes to Jeddah, then I think this will be tied up in New York, in the New York courts. And I think he could well be right.
Yeah.
I think he's also right that everybody wants it in Auckland, assuming even I'm sure Grant Dalton, assuming the money can be found to be sure the team is well taken care of.
Yes. And I that's where I agree with him. You know, if everybody wants it there, there's got to be a way to do it.
Well, but there's that, and then you also have to follow the money, because there are people who, and I haven't said this in so few words, but there are people in New Zealand who will assert that the whole reason that Grant Dalton wants to go offshore and that the squadron is letting him is because they think there was a big pile of money at the end of the rainbow, which was not only going to have an event and fund the team and then pay back some debts that the team might owe to certain people, and also send $3 million cash as a little honorarium to the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron for their purposes. But Michael Fay is involved with this, backing it, so one hears. So is this gentleman. That is James Farmer Q.C., Jim Farmer, who is a longtime friend and a hell of a good sailor and has been involved in the Cup, including on the board of Team New Zealand. James Farmer, this is something I wrote for the Sailing Illustrated blog, which is in abeyance, of course, some years ago, 2017. James Farmer Q.C. is a superb sailor, AC vet, former Challenger Commission colleague, esteemed member of the New Zealand legal community, and longtime friend. The headline, I'll tell you the headline in a sec, is an excerpt from Mr. Farmer's post to his personal legal blog, which is widely read in New Zealand inside and outside legal circles. As most of our dear readers will know, your Ed, meaning me, concurs completely with the headline above and believes many, if not most, do as well. Now, this again is a 2017 blog post by Mr. Farmer, and you'll come to the quote, the headline that I took out of this quote here in a sec. For myself, this is from his blog post, 2017, December of 2017, when they were, how soon we forget, Daltz and the squadron were telling the city fathers and mothers and Wellington, the central government, that if they didn't come up with the money, they're going to take the event out of New Zealand then for AC-36. We forget that there was a whole set to around that, at which time the esteemed lawyer, Queen's Counsel Jim Farmer, said, for myself, apart from whether Abu Dhabi or Russia or wherever are even legal alternatives, given Team New Zealand's contractual arrangements with Prada, who was then the challenger of record, I cannot imagine that Team New Zealand would, in fact, this is the headline I quoted as the headline, I cannot imagine that Team New Zealand would, in fact, seriously contemplate moving the event offshore, and it would be helpful and in their own interest in retaining public support if they came out in the open right now and said that this is not a possibility. The failure to make a public statement to that effect will, even the people who believe that it is inconceivable that Team New Zealand would do so, look rather like corporate blackmail aimed at the government. Quote, pay us a hosting fee or we will go elsewhere. That's Jim Farmer, one of the most powerful, influential people in New Zealand, writing that about AC-36 when this same contretemps was going on over the venue before the event, which actually ended up. So I cannot imagine that Team New Zealand would, in fact, seriously contemplate moving the event offshore. So said Jim Farmer, Q.C., on his legal blog in December of 2017. So there are other powerful people. Jim Farmer's not poor. Michael Fay's not poor, and I'm sure they can rustle up money from other people. And it's interesting that Daltz did not mention this exchange of letters that Mr. Dunphy refers to, that apparently went on last week, at least earlier this week. So I'm not quite sure when, but Bob Field, who's the chairman of the ETNZ board, allegedly, according to Dunphy, sent a letter saying, yeah, okay, we want to talk. Good. As I said at the top of the show, I take this all as good news. Now, more good news, I think. There is a website called KiwiHomeDefense.com, and it is put up by this gentleman, Mr. Dunphy, and his supporters. KiwiHomeDefense.com. Have a look. Nice pictures, nice talk about the previous Cup and the future of the Cup, and then an open letter from Mr. Dunphy that was posted last night. Celebration of the 37th America's Cup in Tamaki, the open letter to New Zealand, 17th of September, 2021. We are very pleased to hear today's news that the RNZ and TNZ are taking more time to resolve the location of the America's Cup match in 2024, and that they are now seriously considering celebration of the 37th Cup in New Zealand, the Maori for New Zealand. We feel very strongly that the defense of the America's Cup should be held at home. There has always been the support and funding here for this. We are passionate supporters of our great sailing team. You heard him say nice things about Daltz and the sailing team in that interview just now with Heather. Heather D, as one of you call it. We have written to, he goes on, this is an open letter on that website. We have written to the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron and Team New Zealand offering to assist with funding for the at-home, unquote, quote-unquote, defense of the America's Cup. We have offered to meet with the squadron and Team New Zealand at any time. We look forward to working with the government, Auckland, yada, 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 okay. And then I know that Kiwis want the remaining issues to be put to bed so that Auckland can be confirmed. Our wonderful group of designers, yada, so he's a nice, another olive branch to the team. Our 2024 America's Cup defense will provide a magnificent opportunity to demonstrate New Zealand is back and open for business after the COVID pandemic, yada, yada, yada. Okay. And my colleagues and I have our sleeves rolled up and are ready to work constructively with everyone to deliver this hugely important result for the crew, meaning population of New Zealand, of 5 million. Okay. And it was signed Kind Regards.
Good for
You
me.
like that? Kind Regards, Mark Dunphy. And the website is, again, KiwiHomeDefense.com. And this made, in fact, Magnus Wheatley wrote all about this today and also takes this as good news. And Magnus is going to be on the show next Tuesday. We're going to talk about this. Magnus Wheatley. Now, speaking of Brits, the Royal Yacht Squadron Limited, it's their team, NEO's Team UK, but the RYS at Cowes Isle of Wight issued this somewhat strange tweet this morning. As Challenger record, we continue to support the defender to negotiate a venue decision at the earliest opportunity, as we appreciate how important a decision this is for all teams looking to challenge for the 37th America's Cup. So it's a bit of surplusage, but it's strangely worded.
It doesn't just say hurry up, guys.
No, it doesn't. It says we support the defender to negotiate a venue decision at the earliest opportunity. But again, remember, the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, the squadron and ETNZ are in the driver's seat. They could decide to run this in 2025.
Yep.
2026. They don't have to run it in 2024 if they don't want to. Or they could do a one-on-one match in the Solent with NEO's Team UK, which I still think the Solent is the only other venue that makes sense besides Auckland. If you're going to do it anywhere else than Auckland, do it in the Solent, which was what some of the initial discussion was. But you know why they didn't pursue the Solent or Keith Mills? Because they couldn't squeeze any money out of the governments there or out of any real estate deals. So they started looking at Valencia and at Cork and other places that put the bids in. So God knows how much money they now owe to Sir Keith Mills and the Origin Sports Group for this whole extensive and expensive venue search. Well, you're an old.
Yes,
search,
I am.
Former search officer for headhunter, but let alone venue. So
yeah,
you can appreciate it. So long story short, this postponement flag is up at the squadron, at the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, and we'll see how this all plays out. Let's see what your comments are now. Gordon Smith is he's not very impressed by all this. An open letter. Well, everything is sorted then, isn't it? I thought Heather did a good job putting his feet to the fire about, where's that? You got the 80 million? You got the money? Well, Challenger dictates the match time frame per the DD. Yes, true, Bill Wingrove, but if you're the defender, you get a lot of clout with the Challenger saying, we can't do this. We really can't do this before 2025 now that this has happened. Gordon Smith, I do agree, but Daltz, who are you agreeing with? But Daltz is trying very hard not to face Ineos poorly funded given the potential resources. Yeah, I think that's right. And Ineos has had apparently from top to bottom, not only is Grant Simmer out, but a number of other people in that team's hierarchy are either moved aside or are no longer with the team. And one hears that a lot of the Mercedes F1 team leadership, some of the Mercedes F1 team leadership will be sliding in to help run the Ineos Team UK. Okay, entertaining interview, but not exactly center stage. Bruce Hudson is saying it would be a surprise if Dunphy becomes a central player. Bruce, I wasn't given a lot of confidence by that interview either. And that's why I called you, Stingray, and said, hey, what'd you really think of that? I wasn't all that impressed. So, Grant Dalton's between a rock and a hard spot. He's got to try to fund the team, notwithstanding all that. I think that was, he's talking about how they lost so badly in 2003. They didn't lose in 2003 because of funding. They had plenty of dough in 2003, and the event was well funded. They lost because Russell and Brad and the rest of the tight five went to Alinghi, and then Ernesto came in with a well-organized team, Ernesto Bertarelli and the Swiss, and took the cup and beat us with Oracle Team USA. And
We haven't heard from Ernesto.
no, we haven't, although there's been some back channeling going on.
Have
I can't talk about it.
All right.
There is some back channeling. Any other comments about the cup before we move on? Okay, we beat that one pretty well. That's an hour that we've been talking mostly about cup. Jonathan Frank, spending gobs of cash to go nowhere. Croutonic. Yeah, it is a bit croutonic. And that's why okay, now speaking is correct or croutonic in this next segment. Now we can turn off that. And now we can ask whether you all think my post on my Facebook page a couple days ago was correct or croutonic. And this was the post. And it was an editorial. It was not a rant. It was carefully thought out. And this was yesterday after we learned that they had, in fact, delayed the decision, postponed the decision. Time, I wrote, for the RNZ and ETNZ to stop spinning out BS PR about potential venues that don't really exist and start having serious talks with the friends and family in Auckland, whether it's Dunphy or anybody else. Stop insulting everyone's intelligence. If a crouton like me, like yours truly, can predict this postponement last Monday, it's obvious to many others, including and especially the so-called potential venues, what a fantastically flawed bid process this has been. As I said on Tuesday's TFE Live, a complete fustercluck. Hilarious if it were not so sad for the Cup and our sport. I sincerely believe that. Time for some adult supervision, which is what the trustee is supposed to be providing. More on Friday's TFE Live in the show that we're on now. So that's what I said, and it got a lot of reaction. It got a lot of comment. Julia, do you want to be the first to comment? You
No.
can be the first to comment.
My comment is I was just amazed at the comments.
Comments were great.
Yeah.
And again, I think Mr. Dalton has achieved what he was trying to achieve, and I said that at the top of the show, and I'll say it again. That was my Facebook post yesterday after hearing the news, which came, as you know, as no surprise. Now, this was, she's not a Facebook friend, but she's off and on here, and she wrote, in response to mine, she said, "You have no skin in this game, so there is no excuse for your attitude and opinions." I guess, I'm being canceled. Like, I don't have the right to express my own opinion. Sorry, I'll read it. "It is so obvious that you don't like the Kiwi team, Grant Dalton, or any of the principals there, and I don't know whether it is jealousy or what, but usually it is better to say something nice or say nothing at all. When you use words like fustercluck, you are telling the world more about yourself than you are communicating about Grant Dalton and the RNZ. Well, I wasn't saying that Grant Dalton was a fustercluck. I said that the bidding process was a fustercluck because I don't make personal attacks. We don't resort to name calling, and we don't use coarse language. Well, fustercluck is not coarse. You are telling the world more about yourself. When you have accomplished half of what TNZ has accomplished and your CV, your resume looks as good as Dalton's, then you may have the standing to comment." Well, I guess I don't have standing to comment after being in the Cup for over 40 years.
Yes.
And having won it a number of times and lost it and so on.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I
She's
welcome
allowed
her
to-
opinion. I'm really glad to have somebody push back.
Yeah, I am too. It's
Because often we don't get pushback, and I'm happy to have it. So
Right.
I thought about this carefully and talked to Julie last night about whether we should run it. By the way, you are an American, in saying Z instead of the letter Z doesn't make you, and she goes on to say, sound sophisticated. It makes you sound like a phony and a fake. Well, excuse me. As I said, I've lived in New Zealand and Australia at length, and in Europe for 18 years, where we all said Z, and always will, because it's easier for and most of our audience says it, and it's easier for them to understand than if I say Z. Did he say T or the or C? Z. Everybody calls it that, and we try to be respectful to the local languages, as you all know. The same goes for your snooty pronunciation of France. Well, again, everybody from France says France, and we say France especially when we have a French audience and people here. You are not British, Canadian, nor a Commonwealth country. It is not your sport. It is the sport, again. Who are you trying to impress? You sit in your mini studio and spout out your opinions as if you are a person of consequence in the sailing world. No, we're just here with our friends in FOSI. You are not in the same league as P.J. Montgomery or Richard Gladwell. Well, I won't go into that. As we used to say back in university days, you are only a legend in your own mind. Also, a crouton is a piece of dried out bread that goes in a salad. Get off your high horse. You're imperious. Look it up. Thank you. Behavior is unnecessary, unattractive, and ridiculous.
There you go.
But I appreciate the comment, and I liked it, and I've invited her onto the show.
Yes.
Come on, and come tell us what you think.
Yes.
And try to do without name calling. But okay, that was a fair. From her name is Julie Ahrens. She was born from her Facebook page in Shaker Heights, which is a suburb of Cleveland. But I think she now lives in New Zealand. I'm not sure, but I couldn't tell for sure. Julie Ahrens, this was a response to that from one of our FOSI. I hope you had a nice cup of tea and a wee lie down after that tirade. Tom Ehman, keep up the good work. That from Matthew Lovett, whom I don't know, I don't think, but he's a Kiwi who posted that. Easy, Tom. I'm a fan of your show, but this vitriol is completely unnecessary. You know very well how hard it must be for Dalton to put this thing together in the current climate without the checkbook of a billionaire at his disposal. He does have the checkbook of a billionaire. The process and the government. The process may well be flawed, but we all know ETNZ will get there, and there's nothing to be gained by cynical commentary in the meantime. I didn't think I was cynical. I was serious and quite, sure that this was not a good process. Mm-hmm. And I still am. Alistair Hopwood, who I also don't think is a Facebook friend, but I appreciate Alistair's comment as well. Then there was this. Tom, there is good reason that for many years you've been called upon by teams and media outlets for your insight into the Cup. Well, thank you for that comment. Gareth Evans, who I believe is a Brit. And I as I said, I appreciate very much that. And then finally, this comment, also in response to Ms. Aaron's comment. Good for you, Tom, for stating the facts as they are. I can't see any other sailing journalists doing the same, as most have skin in the game, as in advertisers, etc. I agree it is BS PR, as they don't have any contenders, maybe the Saudis, but that would be dirty money. Amazes me the level of negative reaction here to simply telling it as it is. And I think Gray Gibson, who again is not a Facebook friend, I don't think I know Mr. Gibson, but as a Kiwi who posted that comment, I appreciate it very much. So I ask you again, was my take on this correct or croutonic, and what about these other comments, Julia?
I'm more interested in what other people have to say about this.
Okay, let's see what they say. Spot on, Tom. Mark Orton Reed is saying. Yeah. Clark Chave, just because the horse is dead doesn't mean we have to stop beating it. Okay.
Yes.
Well, we're not. I mean, this is interesting. You nailed that, Tom Stingray said. Thank you. Absolutely correct. The whole thing is croutonic. I like the term airy fairy. Yes, the term airy fairy from the Dunphy interview about Saudi Arabia. I thought that was an interesting choice of words. She asked him, is it airy fairy? And he said, well, and he was right. I think he is right. No, it's not airy fairy. They can throw real money at this, as we all know, as they have with F1 and with other sporting events, and as Oman, as Qatar has done, and other countries in that part of the world. And I've been to that part of the world and like Dubai. Fritz Mueller, silly comment, but what about a micro AC challenge with kids battling it out in Opties? Could see this a hit for you sailing. Interesting. Who is this Karen? Jonathan Frank. Well, I don't want to be name calling. I'm not going to call her a Karen. I'm again delighted, Julia, that she made the comment, that she replied, said what she thought.
Yes.
And my skin is not exactly thin, and I appreciate the constructive criticism to the extent that it was not, that she did a name.
Yeah.
Tamaki Makaru, Auckland. Yeah, it's Auckland, not New Zealand. Aotearoa, I can't pronounce it. Most radio and TV will say Tamaki Makarau, Auckland, i.e. weather reports. Incidentally, it's Maori language week down here. Oh, okay. Learning Maori is taking off big time. Yeah, I see that, and that's good. We better learn some Maori, because I think the next cup, Julia?
Yes.
It's going to be in Auckland.
Yep, I think so.
I hope. Damn, some Kiwis can think thin skin. What I do resent, and if Ms. Ahrens is watching, I welcome your opinion. I'm happy to put it on here. I'm happy to have you come on the show and express your opinion, as we are with anybody and everybody. But I resent very much anybody trying to cancel anyone else on this planet and say you don't have the right to say what you think and think what you say. And Julia and I both stand for that here in this country. And the cancel culture, or this idea that you don't somehow have skin in the game or you're not entitled to an opinion. Well, excuse me.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like I haven't been around the game for a long, long time, and had my share of wins and losses in this game as well. Very level-headed, Gordon Smith. Very level-headed, a chip on both. You know that joke, Julia?
No.
The difference, and it depends who's telling it, an Aussie or a Kiwi.
Yeah.
Do you know what the difference is between an Aussie or a Kiwi?
No.
Well, the Aussies are very level-headed. They've got a chip on both shoulders. It's an old joke. Thanks for the Gordon Smith. Now I'll have Ms. Ahrens really. Well, no, because we took it back at the Clark Chapin. Gee whiz, don't sugarcoat it. Give it to TFE straight. He can take it. I can't work out whether she's a tomato or a tomato. No name calling, guys.
No. I think she needs support for having expressed her opinion.
Exactly.
Because we need that.
Yes, exactly. Tom, you were correct. Paul Humchick says, Gordon Smith, correct. You have a reasonable perspective to express. Thank you. Baton Rouge and Charleston, the horse doesn't know you're beating it still. That's Clark Chapin, as we used to be able to say at General Motors. He's, of course, an engineer and was an engineer at Generous Motors. I know we're a day late, but here's a blank check. Does that help? Warren Chaucer in Brisbane is watching. She's a fuster. No, she's not a fuster cluck. We don't name call. We don't call people Karens or fuster clucks. And we talk about processes and about, and right. I think the world of Dalton. I think he's tough. I think he's smart. I've said any number of nice things about Russell Green, who's my longtime friend, and Gladwell, with whom I'm happy and I'm glad to disagree with him. And I know why he says some of the things he does, but I completely respect his right to do it, appreciate when it does, and look forward to having him on the show again soon.
Magnus says.
Is Wheatley on here?
Yes. He says, Julie Ahrens is my pseudonym.
I bet she hates Valencia. Well, Valencia is how everybody, pronounces it in Spain. And I get made fun of here in the States because after living in Spain for all those years, you use a Castilian here, where in America they don't use the TH for some of those sounds. But I can't keep track of that and please everybody. The only person I have to keep happy is my co-host and the Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club and my landlady, because she kicked me out of what'd she call it, the wee studio or the small studio?
Yeah.
And it is a small studio.
It is.
Tiny little studio. It's one of the best studios in live streaming, though. Everyone has the right to their opinion. Unfortunately, she was wrong, Charlie Proenka. Okay, well, I appreciate all those opinions, and I'd love to have Ms. Ahrens come on the show, and we appreciate all opinions.
Yes.
And especially, there was no coarse language in her opinion. She obviously felt strongly, and she somehow thought we were attacking ETNZ or Daltz, which I'm not. I think we all want the cup to be back in New Zealand, and I think she does too, probably. Okay. Bet you said ERBS. What's that mean? Herbs. Jeff Waller. Problem is that her replies to your editorial took up too much of our valuable time to read. I reached the end and realized I could have been doing something else. Matthew's on. And Matthew Lovett, thank you for your comment, sir. Okay, this day in history. Speaking of the America's Cup, this is a cup-related this day in history. And a tip-off from Hamish Ross, who keeps these things in his diary. I guess he's got a long spreadsheet of what happened in various America's Cup dates, on various dates. What happened in 1930, Julia, 1967, and 1977 on this date? And it's the 18th. We're doing this in honor of Auckland in New Zealand. It's down under. It's the 18th. Here, it's the 17th. What happened on this date in history?
Well, I was there.
In 30, 67, and 77.
Well, 67 and 77, I was around, so.
Here's your first clue. That is the cover of the Saturday Evening Post on 20 September 1930. So if I'm referring to the 18th of September, this is 2 days after the 18th of September 1930. And it's on the cover of the Saturday Evening Post, which in those days we had the Saturday Evening Post, it had Look, Life. It was a big pre-TV. It was the magazine world.
Right.
Magazines were weeklies, and they were by way of beautiful photojournalism for the most part.
Yeah, that's a great picture.
It is a terrific.
And it's a
you know what boats those are?
Well, they've got to be. Are they J's?
They are J boats. Well done. Which ones? Okay.
I can't remember.
See if anybody else knows. Ken DeVerne is watching. Harry Leischman, Mary Longpree. A big day for defenders. Hamish Ross is saying repeat boats as defenders. I moved that the FOSI vote that today is Julie Aaron's Appreciation Day. I agree. Let's appreciate Julie Aaron. And anytime we say Julie Aaron's, you have a drink. Is that the deal? Back to our day in history.
Okay.
Julie?
Sure.
And it's Julie, not Julia. Not to be confused with you. Hashtag where's the scarf? Okay, that's 30. What happened in 1967?
Did we just? I wasn't listening. What happened in 1930?
Well, I said this day in history involves this date in those 3 years.
Yeah.
30. And now here's your clue number 2 from 1967. It's a photo via classicyachtinfo.com. Now you can clearly make out what that is.
Mm. Yeah.
You can see the name.
I saw one of those races.
That is a 12-meter.
Yes.
That is not 1970 when Bill Ficker was driving. That's 67. And you see the bendy boom? That was thought to be a very good thing to flatten the mainsail in the middle of the main, and the Cup boat started putting bendy booms on. We all started putting bendy booms on our little dinghies, our Fireballs and 470s, and it turned out not to be the way to trim a main, but that's another issue. 1967, Intrepid. Here's your third clue about today's This Day in History, referring to 1977. You know who that is? And where that is? 1977, Newport, Rhode Island, a harbor celebration by the Yacht. Should I back that lower third off? Can you see the name of the yacht?
No. Oh, Courageous.
Yes, and you see who's standing there in the back with his arms upraised, his fists upraised. It's Gary Jobson. Having just defeated Australia 1, and our dear friend and FOSI Andy Rose, who was the tactician on Australia 1, the first American to go do that.
Aha.
So that is those 3 dates. So the answer to our this date in history, 30, 67, and 77, as Hamish hinted a minute ago, at which he hinted, 3 Cup winners on this day, on the 18th of Super September, in 30, 67, and 77. And those 3 Cup winners were Enterprise, the J-boat, over Shamrock, the 5th and final Shamrock. That was Sir Thomas Lipton's last challenge, 1930. Commodore Mike Vanderbilt, the first of his 3 wins in Enterprise. And then in 67 was Intrepid. That boat would go on to win again in 1970 when Ficker was quicker. You know who steered Intrepid in 67? Wasn't that Mossbacker? Bus Mossbacker? Somebody will remind me. And in 1977, as you pointed out, that is Courageous. So it's on this day, the 18th, where it is down under. A triple header, a triple win, a triumvirate of wins in the America's Cup on the 18th of September. Hamish is not aware, by the way, of any other date on which there were 3 winners. Some other things happened on these dates too, but we won't bore you with that on the 18th. We were not aware of any other date that has had so many Cup winners. Now, speaking of 12s in Newport, I just stick this in because the announcement was made this week. You know what yacht club that is? Does that Bird G help? Remember that Bird G with the 18 stars?
Oh, yeah. 1
for each life?
Yes.
Saved by the lighthouse keeper's daughter, Ida Lewis. And she took over in the 80s for her dad. And that rock, that Slime Rock, middle of Newport Harbor, and there's now a causeway out to it, but that is the Ida Lewis Yacht Club, and they will be hosting next summer the 12-meter Worlds, the 19th through the 24th of September. So just a year from now, that announcement's been made this week, and that should be a terrific event. The 12-meter Worlds, whether they're in Europe or they've been in the States of late as well, on and off, they have been terrific events, and we hope, and there's a pre-Worlds as well, and it's something we probably ought to go have a look at. Hope all of you do as well.
Hamish says coming up a 4-win day.
There is a 4-win day?
Coming up.
Okay. Well, don't tell us more than that. I thought when I talked to Hamish, she said, no, this is the only multiple. Well, not the only multiple, but the only day with 3. But I guess there's a day on which there were 4 winners. Okay.
No, coming up. It just.
Coming up.
Yeah.
What's that mean? Coming up 4-wind day. I think what that means is that there's a day sometime in September on which there were 4 cup winds.
Oh.
I think that's what he means.
Or that there will be another wind today.
No. He would have told me, we would have highlighted that. Mary's, she's getting impatient. Update on the big boat series, the Con Cup. Yeah, we're going to do that. So let's carry on if you're ready. First of all, get John Emmett's report, our dear friend and FOSI, reporting in from the UK.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the FOSI. So slightly different background today. This is actually from the boat park of Castle Cove Sailing Club, and it's with a hint of sadness I make this report because it is the last evening race of the season, and I think it's sometimes only when you don't have something that you realise how much you miss it. And although we will be racing tonight, and it will be a short race tonight because of the available daylight, I think I'm missing it already. So I'm going to just show a little bit more of the race. I'm not brave enough to take my camera out on the water with me. I know some people do that, but this is what, for me, a lot of the club sailing is about, because you have the racing and you have the social straight after. So I think the evening racing has got to be one of my favourite things. A really enjoyable race, and if anyone's wondering why it comes to an end, yes, that is the moon, which is out now, so it's just getting too dark really to have more racing now, because people need time to get to the sailing club after work. Nice to have 3 different starts. You can probably see in the background we have one start of class racing for the Ilka 6. We had another start for general handicap, which is all the general menagerie, and then in the far distance you can see all the keel boats, and they actually go as the first start. So that's the nice thing. We have 3 starts, and then everybody comes together in the bar afterwards and socialises. And so enjoyable race, did quite well. And for those with the eagle eye, I do have a Science in Sport gel wrapper inside my stock, which is completely intentional. Proper preparation prevents poor performance, and I did get out there and find this is the first time I've used this rudder and this tiller together, and the tiller was hitting the cleat a lot so I could barely steer, and the only thing I had with me in my pocket was a gel from earlier, and that seemed to make the perfect bit of packing. So now, perhaps the most important part of the evening, the after sailing social. People are still coming in, but you can probably see from the windows it's absolutely pitch black outside, and today's a very important day because it's the final evening race. We literally have to drink the bar dry, so I better crack on, and hopefully we have a really good show. Nearly forgot to do something very important, so cheers everybody, and good health. I should mention the clubhouse is now absolutely full, and there's an awful lot of people sat outside on the balcony. Bye for now.
Cheers, John. And we talked about having a cocktail party today. We haven't had one in a while. Maybe we should do that next Friday. Here on, have a Zoom cocktail party. Everybody tune in. But with all this America's Cup stuff, and I didn't want to confuse the action. Okay, what else is going on? Thank you for that, John. And anybody else wants to give us a report, we'd appreciate it. Julia, you know what's next?
Yes.
The 7th inning stretch.
Yay!
And all of you, if you've been sitting around in your chairs, you're probably doing housework, you're probably working, but we all like to stand up and have a 7th inning stretch. Good, Julia. Feels good.
Yes.
Cracker Jacks.
I don't care if we ever get back.
So it's root for the home team.
We're rooting for the home team.
We're rooting for the Cup to be back in Auckland.
Right.
At the old ball game. Da-da-da-da. And that again is the Kansas City Symphony Chorus under the direction of Michael Sternweed. Okay, I feel much better.
Oh, yes.
Just having, just having stood up and moved on.
Yeah.
Okay, what else is going on? We have 3 big regattas going on in this country.
Julie Aarons does not live in New Zealand.
She doesn't?
I live in a dub, in a club, in a dub.
Is she on here? Oh, she is. Great. I do not live in New Zealand. I live in a dub. Okay. Well, thanks, Julie Aarons. Nice to have you on. I thought I saw a reference on her Facebook page to walking past the club every day, and I didn't know if she meant the RNZ or something, but I know she's originally from her Facebook page, at least said she's from Cleveland. Shaker Heights. I've been to Shaker. I played hockey in Shaker Heights as a kid, in fact. Nice town. Cleveland Yachting Club over on the west side at Rocky River, and Menor Harbor Yacht Club and Edgewater Yacht Club downtown in Cleveland. Julie Aarons, thanks for joining us. Anthony Payne is watching. Bravo Zulu, we're going to do a little bit of action here to the big three events that are going on during Super September, and then we're going to talk about the 100. It's just 100 days to the Sydney Hobart. We'll talk about that in the finish line. But yes, Congressional Cup is going on down at Long Beach Yacht Club. We're doing this alphabetically, and they have live television. We'll switch to that. I don't know why it's frozen up here, but it has. The television, they're working hard to do a good job with it. It's not been 100%. It shows 67 people live. It looks like their picture is frozen, or my feed of it is frozen. And while we're trying to get this sorted out, I see Gordon Smith saying, John Emma, it's nice to see a vlog from inside of a real club. I mean, that is what the sport is all about.
Yes.
Isn't it?
And he does a good job of that, too.
Okay, now, sorry, you're having trouble playing this video, learn more. We'll see why that's not working very well.
Yes.
We do have the Congressional Cup. It's been going on since the mid-'60s. And, of course, the 3 of our young friends who were qualified in the Ficker Cup, why our gigabit internet connection, I know they're having some problems, technical problems with that stream of the, there we go. Now we got something live here. And they've got some drones, and they got a PTZ, which means pan tilt zoom camera on the Veterans Memorial Pier there. And sadly, I think it's sad, they're back switching it and doing the commentary from inside a sound booth at the Yacht Club and doing the comment. Let's see if we can get any commentary here.
What's going on yesterday, incident and accident.
That's New York Yacht Club show. We'll come to that in a sec. I don't know if we hear any.
I couldn't get either of them yesterday, I'm sorry to say.
Well, New York's has been fine. New York's has been good, but this is again, they're struggling. That's their drone. And as I said, it hasn't been 100%. James Pleasance is there, our good friend and head of the World Match Racing Tour, executive director. And I don't know for sure from this if the whole video is a little shaky, as you can see. But they'll get it sorted out. One of the, well, I'm not going to tell you more than that. But here's the results as of it at Long Beach Yacht Club at Congressional Cup as of the start of today. They're on the same time as us down in SoCal, so it's 2:30 down there. But at the end of day 2, Taylor Canfield, no surprise, the veteran, multiple winner of the Congressional Cup, hell of a good match racer, great sailor. Taylor was leading 10-2. Johnny Berenson at 9-3. The French guy whose first name is, I can't remember, starts with an M. Monine is on 8-4. And then Emil Kiar from Denmark, in looks like he could get to the semis. He's on 7-5. Likewise, Jeffrey Peterson has a shot at the semis. He's on 6-6. So we'll see how that all goes. Their video stream does not look too auspicious. And if I go to matching racing results, that's a good website, by the way. Match Racing Results. Eric Monine is his name. Does start with an M. matchracingrosults.com, and they cover lots of different events, and they are covering also the Congressional Cup, and there is the current round robin. So Eric is on 4 wins. Johnny Berenson, who's in second, no surprise, he's on 5 wins in round robin 2. Taylor's on 5 wins. Emil's only had 2 wins. David Woods now picked up a win, so he's on 3. Jeffrey's only had 2 wins. So I haven't added those all together, but we'll talk about that next Tuesday. We'll know who the winner is. In the meantime, you can watch it live on their at least ostensibly, you should be able to watch it live on the Long Beach Yacht Club Facebook page. And that's where they've been streaming the show. Now let's go over to the New York Yacht Club YouTube channel. And let's see, we got some commentary from Andy Green.
So Chris, one of the things that we've got here
and
is track. I want to bring all the viewers up to speed and you as well. Not only
Tucker Thompson and Andy Green, they're also in not a sound booth, they're in a room at the Yacht Club.
Follow as well on Facebook and YouTube and tracktrack.com. You can watch the GPS tracks of all the boats. Andy, the clock is ticking down. All the boats already on starboard. They look very early, and the breeze a little bit lighter.
Yeah, it is lighter.
They're inside the bay. That's not outside.
10 to 12 knots of breeze, and now
this on the New York Yacht Club's
we're in the final countdown.
YouTube
We're
channel.
Exactly sure on the time, but we'll get that to you in a second. I believe it's around 30 seconds to go as they come towards the starting line. Two boats on the leeward side, just pushing down towards less than 20 seconds to go now. Final throws in. This is within 10 seconds. It's all about putting the bow down. It's all about accelerating. It's all about getting clear air and fast boat speed as the boats head to the line. Here we go for the final run in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and just two boats in the middle of the line, looking very tight indeed.
They look close to being over.
Stop
talking
over
I think we've
each
got
other,
here,
guys.
Tucker. That is
Please.
the word that we're getting from the race committee general recall.
Everybody jumped the gun. And Andy, the Newport Bridge in the background, the tide is starting to come in, which helps push the fleet over the line.
Absolutely. We talked about the tide. It's running at about 0.4, 0.5 of a knot, so around, a 6-7% of upwind boat speed, but that is directly up the race course. So that encourages the boats over the line. I think we'll probably see a U flag on the
So
next,
that's the
which is,
Invitational Cup,
you get to
Newport, Rhode Island, New York Yacht Club's, what is it, the 6th or 7th running of it? I can't remember.
Yeah, that's a great regatta.
All amateur, oops, that's the wrong look. There's the better look. Let's go back and listen.
Pin and starts and converted those to wins.
Tucker Thompson talking.
On the screen, San Diego won the pin in this start as well. And in the interview afterwards,
Bill Wingrove saying San Diego Yacht Club was killing it today, 4 wins in a row. Today or yesterday?
And that seems to be what these IC-37s like.
Okay, well, I don't know how it's going, but you can watch it on their YouTube, or that is New York Yacht Club's YouTube, or on their Facebook page. This is actually the YouTube.
How that start went, where you could have done a little
And they're
better.
returning to start for the general recall. It looks like a gray, chilly day there, and they're racing in what looks like a north.
Team Katie Nastro live out on the water. Katie, as you know, obviously we're in a general recall. Are you seeing tide out there? Is that why the fleet so many boats were over early?
Hi, Tucker. Yes, I would in fact put my money on the tide just being a huge factor, that the teams really, they thought about coming out here, they did their pre-race homework, but until you get on that line amongst all the other boats and you're all in a lineup, you really can't tell, what
I wonder, Bill Wingrove
really doing
is,
and how much it's going to affect you. So I think they all really anticipated it wouldn't be as much as it is.
Is this their first race of the day?
Everybody's excited to stay forward. We're coming down to the end of the
It looks
regatta.
pretty light.
I think everybody's just looking to get racing.
They do have a good track. You heard Tucker talking about it when we first tuned in there. They've got a thing called Track that's been pretty good.
Left on, so you can, I should say that the mistakes are going to be more and more costly as each of these races tick down.
Well, Chris, you're very cerebral about this. We've got the leading team of Southern Yacht Club. Now we've got potential if you are disqualified, if you're over the line. What are they thinking about in terms
Okay, well, you can watch that on your own volition. That is New York Yacht Club's Invitational Cup. There's some great photos. There's some great, this from yesterday, obviously. And Southern Yacht Club has been leading. San Diego Yacht Club, as Bill Wingrove said, has been on the charge of late. New York Yacht Club's Rolex Invitational Cup, all amateur crews. There are women on each of the teams. And I think there are 19 clubs from around the world, including Royal Cork. You can see leading. In fact, Royal Cork's in third. We talked a lot about Royal Cork. Well, we've been talking about Cork today, not so much Royal Cork. This was the results as of this morning. And I don't know. It looked like maybe that was their first race of the day. Is that including 4 wins in a row? Clark Chapin is saying, you have to go look, see what San Diego Yacht Club. They must have gotten 2 races. Okay, so that would answer that. You see SDYC there on having 2 wins yesterday. This is the results as of last night. So they must have raced 2 more races today. And SDYC, as Bill Wingrove was saying, must have won 2 races today, and hence the 4 wins in a row. Thank you, Clark, and Bill, for piecing that together. But you can see Southern, Royal Thames. I mean, what a lineup of great yacht clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Royal Cork, San Diego, New York, Eastern, Royal Canadian, who won it once or twice, YCCS, Yacht Club Costa Small in Porticero in Italy and Sardinia. No St. Francis Yacht Club, Julia.
No, not this year.
Not this year, but San Francisco Yacht Club.
Yes, and they have a great sailing
there. And American Yacht Club in 10th. And then, as I said, I think there's something like 18 or 19 teams competing in the New York Yacht Club Invitational Cup. Then finally, just one slide here, the Big Boat Series, the Rolex Big Boat Series is on. It started yesterday. They also have live television, but not till the finish. They're starting the boats in the bay. Of course, this time of year, but mostly there's a strong westerly. And these teams now, instead of starting it in front of the club, which they used to do, they go out and have starting lines either side of Alcatraz and run windward lewards for the first race, and then the second race of the day, sometimes 3. Then they run some more, and then they see to it that all the teams go to a buoy up by the bridge, then turn and come back and finish in front of St. Francis Yacht Club. So you see the finish, you see the boats coming downhill with the kites, and then the finish. And Jenny Tulloch and Kimmel Livingston are there doing commentary on the finish, and it's not the most exciting sailboat racing television we've ever seen, but it is beautiful and it's nice. And you can go to the St. Francis Yacht Club's Facebook. No, I beg your pardon. It's the RBB. It's the Rolex Big Boat Series Facebook page, which is separate from St. Francis's Facebook page, and watch the finishes from about an hour from now until through the later afternoon. Rolex Big Boat Series here, hosted by St. Francis Yacht Club. The big 3 events here in Super September going on in the U.S. More or less 3/4, and there's, I'm sure, tons of other things going on all over the place. Somebody mentioned that the Melgus 24 Worlds are going on. What else? Bill Wingrove says he's trying to get Davis Island Yacht Club to look into the event. Okay. So much for those big 3 events. Any other comments before we wrap this one up? Yeah. No, they were arguing about it. It did not look like it was 10 to 12 knots out there on Narragansett Bay.
Yeah.
And Gruber saying, Steve saying, man, maybe they're using KPH, kilometers per hour, like said GP, to get bigger speed. No, they were using knots. I'm sure that Andy and Tucker would be using knots. Okay, our Whiskey Tango Foxtrot segment now. And I have just one submission. And this actually came from a friend of ours, Julia.
Yeah.
Did you send this to me?
I don't know what you're doing.
If you can start the day without caffeine,
Mm-hmm.
if you can always be cheerful, ignoring aches and pains, if you can resist complaining and boring people with your troubles, if you can eat the same food every day and be grateful for it, if you can understand when your loved ones are too busy to give you any time, if you can take criticism and blame without resentment. That sounds like me, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, we can take it. If you can conquer tension without medical help, if you can relax without alcohol, if you can sleep without the aid of drugs. Sounds like a good mantra, doesn't it?
Yes.
You know what the answer is?
Mm-hmm.
There. You're probably the family dog.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. I don't know who sent that to us, but it was hilarious.
I got it. Maybe
Jim Sailstrom, I think, sent that to us. Our
could well be
musician friend who's a member of the club and so on, and
Yeah.
famously good musician.
Mm.
Julia, one other look at. We got some hearts and Thumbs up for that. You're probably the family dog.
Yes.
Could be English unit. Okay, they're still talking about speed. This last segment, our finish line segment, we have a nice video from the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia. The Commodore. I wish more clubs would do this. This is terrific stuff. Put the camera up on a tripod outside the club with a decent mic, just like John Emmett does, and tell us what's going on. Just a brief video to update us on the status of the Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race, hopefully to start on Boxing Day later this year.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia, the home of the Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race. Today marks 100 days until the great race returns, and we wanted to give members, spectators and competitors an update on how we are progressing with our plans. We were so disappointed to cancel the 2020 race due to the COVID outbreak. Of course, we are working through a number of challenges to help us prepare for the great race this year. We acknowledge that some decisions are out of our control, but we remain hopeful that the race will go ahead as planned on Boxing Day. We are in ongoing discussions with the New South Wales and Tasmanian governments to ensure that we are up to date on all the latest COVID restrictions. The CYCA is focusing on what is in our control. An extensive COVID-safe plan is in place to ensure that we can comply with whatever the current COVID-19 restrictions are. We are encouraging competitors to consider their vaccination status to ensure that they can comply with whatever condition is put in place by either state government. Contingency planning is underway to ensure that we have an alternative race should the border to Tasmania remain closed. More information will become available over the coming months, but our priority will be to preserve the route that has made the Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race the pinnacle offshore event over the last 77 years. I would like to thank our race sponsors Rolex, all CYCA partners and competitors for their understanding as we navigate these challenges together. I hope to see you all down at the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia soon.
Isn't that a fantastic video?
Yes.
That guy has a great face, a great personality, nice delivery, and bravo, full marks to Rolex and Sydney Hobart and the CYCA for doing that video. By the way, back in Narragansett Bay, live now, they've started this race at the Invitational Cup. Looks like San Diego Yacht Club are punching out to the upwind left. They're sailing in what looks like, to me, a northern northeasterly, because they're up north of the bridge, of the Newport Bridge in Narragansett Bay in the East Passage. And they're up against the shore there to the left, which is what I guess Connecticut Island. There's an onboard camera of SDYC. So it's a long way to get the signal from the boats back to Harbor Court. I don't know if they're using 5G or 4G or something else, probably using cell phone type technology. But this onboard camera, it's cool, but if it's pre-start and the tactician is straddling the tiller, you're looking at his bum, and even Tucker yesterday had to say, could we look at something other than the tactician's butt? But nice onboard shots. Mm-hmm. Let's see if we've got any commentary coming here.
We're with San Diego. Surrounding them is Royal Canadian Yacht Club ahead, and just about a boat length to leeward. Just to windward is the Royal Thames, but about 3 or 4 boat lengths behind. Royal Thames had to do 2 tacks to clear out. They are not looking in good shape at all. They are wanting that left-hand breeze to build big time. Look at the cloud cover. It's low cloud cover, really tricky conditions.
Great shot.
Hard to see the wind on the water, but it is flat.
You mentioned Hoth Yacht Club being out in front. I have it on good authority that team did not go to bed early last night, and yet maybe sometimes you need a clear the cobwebs, sort of night to improve your performance in sailing.
On board with Eastern Yacht Club, they are to the right-hand side of the race course, heading towards the right.
Now, let's bring Katie back into the broadcast. Katie, I know you're on the race course with the sailors. Just how compressed is this course in this wind direction with the shorelines on either side?
That about wraps it up for us. Julia, your witness.
Yes. consider it your duty to like, follow, and share. It helps us and the sport a lot.
It does indeed. And if you're so inclined, we appreciate it if you would comment, any comment, as long as, again, they are constructive and they're not by way of name calling or coarse language or personal attacks.
Thanks for all the hearts and thumbs.
Janice F. Davis. Paul is filming tomorrow's races at Portage Yacht Club. My brother Paul. Okay, Mom, thanks. Also, support us on Patreon if you would. Support us for a few bucks a month. We'd appreciate it. Or some people just send us a check, which is nice too. They don't want to give their credit card to pay Patreon, although a lot it's for creators like us. We're called, what we're called? We're called creators.
Oh yes.
in the YouTube creators.
Right.
Except we're not a YouTuber, we're a live streamer. Patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. Thank you very much, Julie, for all you do. And any final comments before we carry on here?
No. The part of the sailing season is calming down, and part of it's, roaring up. So
it looks like YCCS is leading here in race 9. Well, maybe Royal Canadian. Track is good. It hasn't been perfect, but it is helpful. Oh, it looks pretty dark and gloomy there. In Newport, Rhode Island, the East Passage of Narragansett Bay, one of the great sailing grounds, if not, certainly among, if not the, I don't know about cradle being the right word, but certainly the spiritual heart of yacht racing in this country. Thank you all for joining us. Hope to see you on Tuesday when we will have as our guest the magnificent Magnus Wheatley. Magnus will be with us to talk on the latest on what's going on at the America's Cup venue. He has his ear, as always, to the ground, and he may even, I think he's on here, he may give us a little tour of his new home in the Isle of Wight. I don't know how much of a tour we'll get, but at least he will be there and telling us about what's going on. And he's got good sources with Ineos, Team UK, so we hopefully will hear from those sources as well as the latest coming out of Auckland and the other 3 potential. I don't think you can worry about Spain. I don't think you have to worry about Cork, but we'll see if there's any more news out of Saudi Arabia that could be of interest or influence. Hope you have a great weekend with the ones you love, and if it's possible, go do some sailing and sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.